down next to Matt.
Enter, rejoice, and come in. As the choir enters, rejoices, and comes in.
Good morning. My name is Willis, and this is actually the last time I will stand before you as a member of the board. We're actually moving away to the Bay Area 30th at the end of July, so it was with mixed emotions. Everyone, and all the friends and people who met her. Come, come, whoever you are welcome here. No matter your age, your size, the color of your eyes, your hair, your skin, you are welcome here. No matter whom you love, how you speak, or whatever your abilities, you are welcome here. You are welcome here, whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears, you are welcome here. If you come here with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands, you are welcome here.
Good morning. Good morning. It is good to be back. And I want to begin today to just tell you that I altered the altar, and that the intent of the person who made the altar was to have more kinds of power than simply the type of power of Martin Luther King Jr. and Mother Teresa. That on the altar there was also our president and Hitler and the atomic bomb, which are also very emblematic of power. And I invite you to consider that those are part of the altar of intent. And it was my decision not to have those staring at you throughout the service. Only because they are faces from which I look away. And I didn't want you to see some of you down there like this. So if you'd like to talk with me about that after the service, I wasn't intending to do that on the slide. It happened all of a sudden. And it is good to be back. I love now walking in the neighborhood around where we live and smelling flowers. Isn't it wonderful this season? And Lou and I today bring warm greetings from fellow Unitarians all the way in Translvania, which is a part of Romania that has many Hungarian speakers and has a vibrant history about which you will hear a lot during my sermon. The people of Transylvania have lived bravely for centuries, and our contact with them filled us with hope. Along their roadsides, flowers are blooming and bears are roaming the deep woods of the mountains, the Carpathian Mountains, searching for tasty berries. Flocks of sheep dot the hillsides, and bees are busy making delicious Translvanian honey that brought me back to health twice. And today I also want to welcome those who come in and join us, but through our streaming, but who are invisible to us, like ghosts who are hovering above us. And I also want to give thanks to our communications team, especially Russ Martin and Ann Hess, and those who have joined them to make this possible. And for those of you who are watching, we'd love to hear from you after the service. Type something in Facebook and let us know what you thought. You are a part of our community too, that gathers unseen. And I hope that you who are out there, know that you are missing now the best part, because now I'm inviting you to greet each other virtually. Please greet each other, and then we will stand in body or spirit and sing Gathered Here, number 389. But But please, let's greet each other.
Please remain standing, or stand if you haven't done so yet. Open up your hymn notes, please, to hymn number 389, Gathered Here. Choir, would you come forward as well?
We recognize, too, that some of you will be standing in spirit, and we welcome that as well. Thank you.
And will the group, the ethereal group at home, please sing with group number 3. This is group 1 here, group 2, group 3. We're singing the whole song through once together. Then we'll have group 1 start singing at the beginning of the song. Then we'll have group 2 start singing at the beginning of the song. And then group 3 start singing at the beginning of the song. And we'll do that round part of it 3 times. So a total of 4 times through. If you don't know what's happening, please follow the choir members in front of your group.
I'm Dana. In 1968, when I planned to be married in the small Episcopal church that I was brought up in Flagstaff, Arizona, I discovered the first crack in that faith. It wasn't possible for us to be married there because my husband-to-be was divorced. We had to find another church that would be accepting of divorce, and at that time, in that place, it was a congregational community church. So we were happily married there. After relocating to Salt Lake, my family was introduced to the Unitarian Universalist Church and its inclusive principles of freedom, reason, and tolerance. We joined up in 1970. I was amazed and delighted that this church had been here in Salt Lake City since 1891. I also like the fact that a sense of humor seemed to be a necessary component of life as a Utah Unitarian. Due to changing circumstances, I became a member of South Valley in 2009. I've happily served and been a part of the Caring Committee, Library Committee, and the Social Action Committees. I love the way that South Valley members put their beliefs into action in the areas of social justice. For me, service is an important part of my church life. Here at South Valley, there are so many opportunities for us to serve each other and to work cooperatively in serving the wider community. This is why I'm here.
Now I would like to invite all the children, either those with a young age or children at heart, to come up, and Alex from Save Our Canyons is going to give you a present.
So my name is Alex. I'm with an organization called Save Our Canyons, and I'm 31 years old, but I certainly fall into the child part, I hope. So why are mountains important? Who likes mountains? We all like mountains, right? They're important for a lot of different reasons. But when it's cold in the wintertime, what falls from the sky that covers the mountains? Yell it out. Snow. So snow is important for a lot of reasons. But when that snow melts, and you go home on a hot summer day like today, and you take a drink of water, where do you think that water is coming from? Snow, that's right. Snow from the Wasatch Mountains, for us here in the valley below. So Save Our Canyons works to get all kinds of people out into the mountains to protect them for the different animals, the different plants, the water source that we depend upon. And so what I wanted to do is give you guys all our Central Wasatch field guide. You like what? It does. That's right. Ice cream probably needs some water too. So everybody come grab one of these. And it's got all kinds of information for you all. And so, hand it to your parents or whatever, write your name in there, and then I'll come back and we'll plan a hike. And we'll get you guys out there. So there's information in here you can see about what cool trails you can go on. Did everybody get one? You didn't get one? You do? Then you better use the Central Wasatch Field Guide. Yeah. Anybody? I have more if anybody else would like one. I'm I'm happy to talk more with you guys about Save Arcadian's work. We have a parcel of land up in Big Cottonwood Canyon called Bonanza Flats that is slated to either be protected as open space or developed with 150 homes and a golf course. This is high alpine area, diverse flora and fauna that are depending upon it. It's a huge recreation area. There are hikes up there or visited that area. That will be voted on by the Salt Lake County Council this Tuesday. We're asking them to contribute money. The full price tag is $38 million. Park City has voted to bond $25 million on that. Private people like all of us have donated almost $13 million. So there's like a $3 or so million gap, and that's one of the asks going to Salt Lake County. So really encouraging people to, if you're in the county, call Salt Lake County Council person. If you're not in the county, that's okay. Still sign a petition, which I have back in the foyer. And Save Arcadian works on a lot of different issues from youth education and stewardship and getting kids out into the mountains to give all of us a sense of place and ownership, as well as policy issues to protect lands and a lot of diverse stuff like that. So I'm happy to talk with all of you about any of that in this conference. Thanks for having me.
All right, some of you know that I sent out a notice that we were going to take a 1.5 mile walk with all of the kids to the park where our picnic was being held. And then I went and walked it myself and decided that that was a bit much for all the kids. So this is the plan. The older kids who want to walk, because I've actually heard from some that are like, no, we want to walk. So we have a crew that is going to walk. My 20-year-old son is out front with some other teenagers and but anyway, they're going to walk to the park. The younger kids are going to stay here with me. So unless you've already arranged with me that your younger child is up for a 1.5 mile walk, they'll still be here. Yeah, I know you're ready, Evelyn. And now we'll go downstairs. You can sing us out.
This has been a place of celebration for Talia Scarborough as she graduated from high school, and Emily Smith, and all those who are graduating and thinking and dreaming of the time ahead. Let us hold their joy among us. We also hold the sorrow of a member who attended this congregation faithfully, and I believe at the end of the 80s and early 90s. Her name is Cindy Vargo, and she is in the last stages of pancreatic cancer in Mesa, Arizona, and we hold her in the light and love of this community, and also her wife, Abby. May they find peace and moments to share with one another. We also recognize the passing of Marie Pondeau, who gave us the great gift of this piano. And there are many in this congregation who are in sorrow at her passing, and we ask to let us hold them in the broad arms of this community. We also hold John Cooper and Rosine Oliver, who are both experiencing illnesses right now, that the warmth of the sun will heal them, that they will be able to get back to us soon. We each carry these worries and joys and sorrows with us, and sometimes those sorrows are in the form of names of people with whom we are connected. After I ring the bell and we enter some time of shared silence, I invite you to bring those names into this space so that we can share our community with them. David. Sorrows too of those who are listening, and behold those as well in the arms of this community. And we take with us the memory of this time of holding each other in the light and love of our community as we enter the greater world. Amen. And may it be so.
Today's offering will be shared with Save Our Canyons, which was explained earlier. It's a local organization that is dedicated to protecting the beauty and wildness of the Wasatch Canyons, mountains, and foothills. Will you join with me in saying the words printed in the order of service for our offering? We are as a church. We are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together we share the wealth of this community and sustain it with our gifts.
potholes, our car moved slowly towards the Translvanian village of Willis. Many of the houses shared the intense blue of the sky, bright and clear after a night of rain. Surprising red poppies bloomed along the walkway to a thick-walled fortress church, a place built for worship and for shelter hundreds of years ago. Our guide, Emmanuel, told us that the people who had arrived as pioneers were poor farm laborers who wanted to establish farms of their own in a new land. They were brought there not knowing what happened very often every few years. What they soon realized was that they were trying to have an idyllic farming life on the edge of the Western world. The high Carpathian mountains to the east were all that stood between them and the wild lands of Russia and Central and Far East Asia. Their farms lay in the pathways of armies bent on conquering the West. Every few years, hordes of soldiers galloped over their land, taking what they needed of animals and crops to sustain themselves, sometimes killing entire villages. The beautiful architecture of the fortress church that remained had been a necessity. The thick walls surrounding the church building was where the villagers had kept the enemy at bay, sometimes successfully and sometimes not. Over the years, that part of the world had been overcome by the Roman Empire for its gold, then by the Huns, the Mongols, the Hungarians, and the Ottomans. At one point, it was held by both the Ottomans and the Habsburgs. Later, they were invaded by the German and Russian armies. They survived the occupation of Russia and the dictatorship of Ceausescu. Translvanian Unitarians held and were sustained by their faith and cultural identity through unimaginable opposition. They gathered during some periods of time in secret, sharing and singing in their native Hungarian language and hoping and praying for better times. This anthem is from one of the melodies that sustained the Translvanian Unitarians through those very hard times. often on our travels in Transylvania, I wondered if my neck would survive the roads. One day we drove 13 hours. 14 hours. The first 3 at an excruciating 20 miles per hour through the Carpathian Mountains, avoiding potholes large enough to swallow our car. A little one like the ones we used to have in the parking lot here before we had those blacktop dances. Remember those holes? I miss those dances though, but it's good to have the holes filled. The beauty of the landscape and the people were worth the effort of our days feeling a little carsick and bruised. The Carpathian Mountains hovered above us, standing as a reminder of the boundaries of that world that stood on the edge, looking out to the east and the wildness that held brown bears and wolves. The nature of those mountains is as at risk as ours, evident in our split-the-plate recipient, Save Our Canyons. I hope that finally conservation will win both of our struggles in this country and in Transylvania with economic greed. And I am grateful for organizations like Save Our Canyons that we can support as they are vigilant in protecting our wild heritage for generations to come. Among the pastoral landscape and idyllic medieval villages in the foothills of the Carpathian Mountains were harsher scenes that exist in memory, the memory of the Romanian people, of that December day of 1989, when the people of Romania executed the dictator Ceausescu and his wife publicly. How many of you remember that? Not everyone. And some of you might not have been alive in 1989. I keep remembering that. But he was such a dictator, and there was such incredible anger that the memory, that image to me of his death, so publicly plastered over the front pages of newspapers all over the world and on CNN over and over. We were traveling at the time, and we'd go back to our hotel and we'd see these images over and over again. I remember watching that news and seeing the firing squad kill the dictator and his wife as people on the streets cheered. I have rarely witnessed such primal anger displayed so publicly. In Bucharest, we saw the monuments that Ceausescu built to himself while his people were starving. And there is still such anger when people speak of having no food at that time. It was an incredible time. And their anger and the death of Ceausescu did open the way to a new generation, a new time in Romania. When we were in Poland, traveling there 3 years ago, we met Unitarian minister from Transylvania, Reverend Zizi Gellert. And through our talking with her over those couple of weeks we spent together, I learned even deeper reasons for the anger that reached a boiling point in 1989. Zizi grew up in Transylvania, and her father, Imre Gellert, was a Unitarian minister and a scholar. During the reign of the communists, he was persecuted and then finally imprisoned told that his wife had killed his son and daughter. It's unbelievable. And then that she had committed suicide. The truth was that while he was in prison, his wife had been forced to divorce him, and his children had to disavow him in order to attend school. Zizi was one of his children. And after 6 years, her father was finally released. You can't imagine the joy they must have felt. But after only a short while, they told him they were going to come and get him and incarcerate him again. He could not bear it and committed suicide. That is part of the history, one of the layers of history of this place where we spent time in the past weeks. It's one of the many stories of persecution that are not outdone by their stories of joy as well. On our pilgrimage, Lou and I visited beautiful Orthodox churches. We went to the painted monasteries of northern Romania and to the elegant wooden Orthodox structures of Maramureș in the midst of those Carpathian mountains. In each place, we lit candles for my sister Jennifer, and we said prayers. In some monasteries, the religious sisters sat by a table with a sign to indicate I could read Romanian because my background before becoming a minister was in Romance languages. So I was able to read Romanian but not communicate very well. But there was a sign by these sisters saying that they would give prayers. And so I left a request with one sister to say prayers for my sister-in-law Jennifer and her family. And then at another minister, the sister looked at me and she accepted my piece of paper with the request, and then she asked me some questions. I explained that my sister had died, and morta. I could figure out this word in Romanian, and she asked, "What religion?" And I said, "Mormon." And her face darkened, and she let out a sound like, and then she thought there might be hope in me, so she asked what religion I was, and I said, Unitarian, and she let out an even bigger sound. And she gave the paper back to me. We were beyond her prayers. We were outside the scope of her God. For those of you who have thought Unitarianism to be a New Age religion, we have a very old history. Since the first days, early days of Christianity, Unitarian theologians declared themselves to be followers of the teachings of Jesus as a wise and important human, but not as a God. Unitarians became a lightning rod for persecution as a growing early Christian church drew lines in the sand of what was sanctioned belief and what was not. Many of you probably know about the Nicene Creed and the gathering at Nicaea, and that was one of those times when they figured out how to explain the Trinity and keep a Trinity. And the Unitarians were pushed out at that time and began to experience a lot of persecution. This experience of persecution eventually led to the Unitarian Universalism of today, in which we are free to believe Our fourth Unitarian Universalist principle calls us to affirm and promote a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And if you are interested in more, I'm teaching a UU 101 class after church next week and the next. Our insistence as a denomination on freedom of belief is one of the greatest gifts of our faith. And in the 16th century, when the Protestant Reformation took hold in the mountains of Transylvania in Eastern Europe, something amazing and wonderful happened. The king became a Unitarian. And during his short reign, the one and only Unitarian king, John Sigismund, issued the first edict of religious toleration in the history of the world in 1568. Sigismund's court preacher, Francis David, argued that people should be allowed to choose among faiths. He said those famous words, "We need not think alike to love alike." This religious tolerance allowed people to establish Unitarian congregations, and these churches continue to preach the Unitarian message in present-day Romania. Transylvania became a refuge for people who believed differently, a place where Unitarianism could be practiced in relative peace. Even in medieval times, the difficult and long roads to Transylvanian villages were outside the reach of the Inquisition that sought out all those beliefs outside the prescribed beliefs of the Catholic Church. And as you can see by my experience in an Orthodox monastery, that prejudice towards the Unitarian minority has not completely disappeared. Centuries later, Unitarians found themselves caught in the unbearable dictatorship of Ceausescu. And as people of conscience, they had to speak out. They were brave, as all of us are called to be brave. And they were punished. I wonder what we would be willing to do to live out our beliefs. Although I stayed away from social media during our time away, I have felt the pain of our community, and indeed many people in this world, as our country withdrew from the Paris Accord, and much of what we have seen as progress of the past years has been dismantled. I'd like to just ring a bell for that pain. I have felt much sadness and waves of anger. These are emotions close to the hearts of our brothers and sisters in Transylvania. Zizi, the daughter of that great Unitarian minister who really was a martyr during the Ceausescu regime, in a sermon in 1999, she said this of being a Transylvanian Unitarian. She said, "We are born into our religion, yet it never came cheap to practice it." Zizi did what was in front of her to do. She published the work of her father, who died for his faith, and then she established relationships with Transylvanian churches and UU churches in the States. And that helped sustain churches in Transylvania. And then, when the UU churches if our country were open, that Transylvanian faith infused the churches here with a centuries-old faith and resilience. Instead of going into the world as teachers, I believe it is time to go out to learn, and we have much to learn from Transylvanian Unitarians. We have much to learn of how they have stayed strong during the last many years. Do we dare hope for a Unitarian or Unitarian-like leader, like the king they had for a few years, who would write an executive order of tolerance for all people? I wonder what we will be called to do. What are we being called to do in these times? And how could our faith sustain us? During the past months, I have felt, as the Transylvanians, as if we are at the edge of the world, under siege or a possible siege. I wonder if all our good fortune, our past good fortune of living in peace away from war, has made us weak in the face of opposition. I wonder if we will need to become strong. I hope that as a community, we can become strong together. As the Translvanian Unitarians have struggled to keep their culture through horrendously difficult times, we must hold to our values and not abandon this country. I don't want to hear, and I'm sorry because I heard some of you say this, that you're moving to Canada. That's too easy. May we do what we can, even when it seems the leaders have lost their minds. We must get out to vote. I am not angriest at the people who voted for someone I feel unworthy for office. I am most angry about those who did not vote at all. We must earn the great privilege of freedom of our own country, for Romanian history holds the cautionary tale of what happens when liberty is lost. The Shekeli hymn, so beloved by Transylvanians, one of them translates to this: who knows where fate leads, rough road, dark night. Rough road, dark night. I give thanks that they, the Unitarians of Transylvania, have kept the light of their faith burning through those rough roads and dark nights. And when the road is dark, may we light each other's ways. I invite you to come and go with me to that land, not where we are all the same, but where we are all engaged. Come and go with me to that place. May it be so. Amen. I invite you now to stand and sing in body or spirit our closing song, Come and Go With Me, number 1018. We're going to sing without our
That's on purpose, not a mistake. Will the choir please come forward and help out? Just before each verse, I'll say the first words of the next part of the song. It's a zipper song, so as soon as you know the first 5 words, you got it. Something like that. Go with me. Come
Carpathian Mountains for a few moments when we look out at our beloved Uintas. May we encourage resilience in one another and not give up in the face of diversity. And may we find joy as often as possible. And may this be a place of joy and hope and action.